no.
Okie dokie. So what do we have here? We have Octane Designs Magnetic Sequential. This is the V2 in black. What do we got? Owner's manual, nice. Always good to have something like that. Vern Osborne, go check him out. Made in USA. He's on tour with Ozzy right now. Woo! Looking industrial. Look at this beast. Okay, let's make sure that there's nothing else in the box. We got some kind of plates there, some USB, nothing in there, and the padding is adequate. We call that padaquate. I'm just now realizing my shadow is right in the way. Ignore my shadow. I'm an ethereal being. Don't worry about it. Let's see what's in here really quick. Okay, we've got some hardware. Let's see what all we have. Okay, we have the mounting hardware. And we got some tools. This is actually, oh, look at this. Wow. Now you can tell that this is in-house. It's a little bit loose fitting on there. It looks like a high quality, high tensile strength steel. Also, I was told that this is how it comes to everybody. Because sometimes companies send me things a little bit differently. Like they'll include like little things and I'll talk about it. And like later on I'll find out like someone will be like, oh, that didn't come with mine. I'm like, oh shit, I'm sorry. But I was told specifically, this is how it comes to the customer. You know, I did not pay for this, but this is how it comes to the customer. The hardware is nice quality, spring-loaded T-nuts. Subject to change, I'm sure, based on, you know, availability of parts and things. It's also the kind that has a little bit of a raised portion so you can get closer to the threads with shorter hardware. So it comes with a 6mm, looks like, a 5 and a 4mm Allen key. And these actually feel pretty nice. They don't feel like they're cheap steel. We do have some 3D printed parts. We have one right here, one in the middle, and I believe that's... Okay, there's more 3D parts, or 3D printed parts down there. It does look like it's using micro switches right here. I don't like micro switches too much, but if they're placed appropriately, you know, and they're not like in a really heavy impact zone, that's not a big deal. All sim racing gear should come with grounding stuff, like just like built in. You know, less of a problem that way. Very tightly packed in there. Can't really see too much of it. Kind of like a plasticized coating. There's not plastic underneath. You could tell it's a metal device. Oh, okay. Wow. That feels very good, actually. The knob actually feels really good. Nice choice, Octane. You could be looking at my new main Sequential. I can't tell yet if I prefer it over the Simagic one that I use, but that feels amazing. Very premium. Got a little bit of a etched or laser engraving right there. The hardware is all super beefy. By the way, if I sound stuffed up, it's because I am. It does have micro USB. I don't like micro USB at all. I think it's one of the weakest USB connections. You all have had cell phones probably that featured this connection at one point. It's not a good connection. He did reach out to me though, knowing that I hate these types of connections, and said that future revisions, he is gonna move on to USB-C or whatever better connection is available at the time. The cable it comes with though, looks to be very high quality. These are aluminum shells, it feels like. Nice braiding. Who makes this here? Seems like an off-brand, unbranded, but it still has a brand kind of a product here. You know, as soon as you attach a name to it, it's at least reputable in the way that you can source these by the same people. You know, you can go on Amazon probably and find this company. I buy entirely unbranded or off-brand, whatever you want to call it, cables nowadays. I don't buy like Samsung cables, Apple cables, or whatever. I just don't, because they're a ripoff telling you to spend like $70 on a cable. It's like, no, like These cost pennies coming out of the factory, and that's what they should be sold for at most dollars. So yeah, this does seem like a nice quality cable. You know, I don't think that this is gonna cause any problems. The mounting location is kind of odd, like the angle, like at you know, you'd plug this in. So let's see how this would. I guess it goes this way. The connection seems solid. See, look, I don't like that. Like, see how there's like a little bit of continuous pressure on there. It seems pretty solid in there. It doesn't feel like it's like super loose or anything. This is interesting, but I guess if you have a micro switch that fails, you can replace it yourself pretty simply, it looks like. So in case you didn't know what I was talking about when I said I don't like micro switches, they're typically rated for, you know, millions of cycles, right? Without failure and stuff like that. But I personally have had micro switches fail on super expensive gear. So just because it's rated for a million cycles doesn't mean it's gonna last that long in your particular item. So as long as the design is not placing a ton of force on this piece of, or on this part, that's why this lever is here. It's so like you can, even if you push down hard on it, no matter what, it's not gonna be pushing a ton on this device. It's just like this flexible little lever, right? But as long as your design is appropriate and it makes it to where there's not like a ton of force being applied on these micro switches here, it's not really a problem. I'm not gonna go ahead and take this apart because it looks pretty relatively simple inside. It looks like there's a housing here and a housing here with a single micro switch, and then like the accompanying wires coming out connecting to this control box. Very simple layout, and it looks to be that, you know, when I pull this, it just actuates this micro switch over here, and then vice versa, right? So, and there's probably like, you know, built-in stops to prevent it from applying too much pressure on these micro switches. And that, again, that's why this thing sticks out further than the actual little button here itself, because, you know, it can push this button without having a direct contact with the button, you know. So there's a zone where no matter what, as long as you go past a certain zone of this lever, it's gonna actuate that button. So even if it was like, you know, even if it just went to right there, the button's still gonna press. Even if you went to here, the button's still being pressed. So yeah, it's a high quality solution. It's just not my preferred solution. I always prefer Hall effect sensors, which have no physical contact with each other. It's just like a magnetic sensor that detects like a magnetic field. This is a magnetic shifter, but it's not a magnetic Hall effect sensor shifter. It's a micro switch shifter with magnets as the resistance, which feels amazing. This is the long handle version. There's also a really short one, but from what I've been told and from what I know, the long handle version has more force that you can adjust, like a larger range of force. So like if you want it to be stiffer, you can have that. If you want it to be you know, less stiff, you can also do that. But the shorter model, I think it's about that long, has less available force that you have to apply to get it to actuate. Okay, this is my preferred connection type here, in case you're wondering. It's a USB printer type. I don't know if you can see that, but it's probably the beefiest of the USB connections. So you can see the height difference here in the SimMagic versus the Octane. That actually, I can tell this is gonna feel very good. This one feels more mechanical. It doesn't feel like just like a straight up pull. It feels like there's like a hump you have to get over in a pleasant way. I do love this shifter, this SimMagic shifter, but it does break very often. They are Hall effect sensors in here, and what breaks is the springs. It is frustrating to constantly have to repair this thing. Yeah, you can see that there's an actual gear system taking place in this one. So this Octane shifter does not have that, but it doesn't need it as long as, you know, it's replicating the feeling, right? So they do have some slots on both sides here that so you can mount it straight on at an angle, whatever. This is a one-man team from what I know as well. So this is a very small company, and you know, he builds these by hand. I'm probably gonna put some music in the background so you can't hear that stupid fly. I shouldn't say stupid fly, he's just doing his thing. Okay, so yeah, you just plop them in there. So let's say you have like both sides of your channel closed off, you can still get these things in the channels without having to take everything apart. Oh, okay. I'm kind of in love with this. This might get in the way. I might have to switch this around. With our handy dandy included wrench and other tools. We can also find out if this significantly affects the pull force. Maybe it's in the middle position right now. So these are some nice, look like copper or brass bushings. I'm assuming those are copper. Setting up your sim racing gear in relation to other gear, it's always a little bit of a puzzle. Super durable coating on here. Like, I imagine that's very chip resistant. Okay. Oh, wow. So a little bit shorter pull. Let's see what the lowest position feels like. Because maybe I'll prefer that, you never know, right? So we'll put it in the lowest position. Okay, I don't like that one. The middle position, I think, might feel the best for me because it's like the perfect amount of pull, distance it travels, and yeah, I like that one the best. I like the resistance of the very top one. I was hoping that I could adjust the height of the shifter, but of course that's why there's two different versions available. So it seems we have to do some adjustment here. Slightly loosen it until it breaks free by itself. So I get the absolute tightest tolerances before. There we go. Now there's no play. Wow, okay, that feels amazing. So currently it's set up for the longest throw. I could actually adjust the throw as well if I take these small bolts out and place them a little bit higher. So, but we're not gonna do that. I want that long throw. You know, now that I'm using it more mounted, it's starting to feel like a more satisfying push and pull than the SimMagic. Even though the SimMagic has more mechanical properties to the actual pull, right? Like, there's something more satisfying with this shifter when it comes to the pull. It doesn't feel like there's friction. It feels like 100% resistance. Like, there obviously is friction because it's rotating, you know, on these bushings, but it doesn't feel like it. It just feels like 100% resistance. And it feels like there's like this hump. Hashtag hump day is every day with this shifter. Or should I say crest? I'm gonna say crest. I love the knurling. Similar to the SimLab here, but it's a little bit more aggressive, and these ridges here create a really defined separation of these knurling strips. When you go to grab it, it feels like these three fingers like lock into those channels. Okay, let's go ahead and test this out. So it's considered a keyboard mouse joystick. Not a big deal, but I do prefer when companies use the actual names of the devices so you can find them easier. As long as you know what it's called, that's all that matters. Okay, let's go ahead and map it in game. See how it does. Let's go ahead and try some kind of beautiful stage. Oh, you know what? Let's do this new stage that's fucking absolutely impossible. Embohimanarina. Embohimamaneria. Yeah, this stage. Okay, that was like, ooh, wow. So that's, I have to get used to that. That shifts earlier than what I'm used to for the pull. I'm used to the shift taking place at the end of the pull. That one. Wait. Where does it actually shift? Actually, it does shift right at the end of the pull. So I guess it just... Yeah, it's at the very end. So I guess I'm just feeling how snappy it is. And it's just quicker to get there than my other shifter. Like, it's also a shorter pull overall. So maybe that's what's going on. Oh, wow. They feel like instant.
into left 5, don't cut, into right 4, into left 4, into left 2,
Yeah,
left 5.
this feels amazing.
Left 5.
This is my new main
Into right hairpin.
sequential shifter. Oh no. Sorry, everybody.
Left
Oh.
5. Keep right crest, into right 2.
Okay, this course has like zero traction. If you see, I'm kind of like struggling. This car is a lot of power for the level of traction we have. I absolutely love how this feels. Like every aspect of it, the ergonomics. Oh shit! It looks cool. I like the coating on it. There's no like super sharp edges. Very utilitarian, very practical looking, very industrial looking. It doesn't look like it's got too much research and development into it to where it's like you're wasting money on how it looks rather than how it functions. You know, it's a purely functional device. I mean, it does still look cool, but it looks cool in its practicality rather than looking cool because someone.
5.
It looks like it should for
3,
what it is.
Go. 20, twisty.
Okay.
Left 6.
Damn, it feels good.
20.
It has
Jump 200. Twisty.
like this snap
Caution, left
thunk
3,
feel.
Black billboard.
I'm not trying to say this to sound mean, but now that I've felt this almost feels like a toy. One of my favorite pieces of gear since I've owned it. And it still is. I'm not saying this is a bad shifter. It's still a very good feeling shifter. There's things about this I like more than this shifter. Mainly the USB connection, the fact that it's Hall effect sensors. And I like the fact that this mechanism is actually in here. This is more or less trying to replicate the feeling of this mechanism, it feels like. But it does a good enough job to where when I'm actually driving, it just feels good. I'm not thinking about like something inside there rotating or whatever. I'm just thinking like, okay, I have full control of my vehicle and I'm shifting and it's working. The handle, the actual grip part feels much better. The build quality is much more robust on this, even though it doesn't look as refined, and it's not as refined design-wise, but it doesn't need to be. It is what it is, and it's all it needs to be. Some aspects of this are much more raw, right? Like the bolt sticking out more, but I didn't think I was gonna be this blown away by this experience because I just expected it to be push and pull and have it just work good enough. That's what I was expecting, but the magnet strength in here that was chosen is the best I've felt. Part of me was expecting to go into this and obviously say some nice things about it because there's nothing really wrong with the unit besides like some little nags here and there. I was going into this thinking there was a good chance I would switch back to this shifter, after some weeks or months of using this one as my dedicated one. But now the first thought that comes to my mind after trying this out, I might sell this and put this money towards my GoFundMe instead of having it sit around and not being used. Because one of my biggest complaints about the SimMagic shifter is that, a lot of the hardware kind of works itself loose. The springs inside, at least the first and second versions of this, which are the ones I have, break pretty often. And I've had to replace these springs inside here maybe 4 or 5 times in the times that I've owned this one, and maybe like 3 or 4 for the other one that I owned. The fact that there are no springs in this one just eliminates that entire aspect of the maintenance that I would have to put towards this after repeated use, right? So I don't know if something's gonna break on this or what's gonna break on this, or if anything will at all. But just the simple fact that this might mean less maintenance for me and more time racing instead of fixing my gear is a big enough reason for me to switch over to this. But the cherry on top is the shifting experience feels better. I'm like, there's no way a magnetic one can match a mechanical feeling shifter. And I've been proven wrong. I like this better. And this is easier to mount. It's simpler to mount. It's a smaller footprint. You can mount it in more locations. It's taller, so you can mount it lower on your rig without having to use risers and stuff like that. Octane, you did damn good. You have successfully converted me. Have a good day. Thank y'all for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.